Weisbrod with us today. So our first item of the day is Public Works, and it is a release of conditions on the Shore Road sidewalk of $125,000. So we welcome Jim Michael, Commissioner of
Yes,
Public Works.
thank you. So if we go back to the budget sheet, the condition was subject to release upon BET review and approval of the Shore Road survey results that indicate a potential to implement sidewalk installations and a commitment from DPW that the feasibility will include public input. So we had a meeting a few weeks ago and gave kind of a spot-by-spot breakdown of the sidewalk that showed any last points of concern, but pretty much there isn't, we feel we can put it on what we're kind of calling the north or the west side of the road, kind of depending on how you want to, which way you consider Shore Road running there. So, and so there's no real major concerns with that. So we're looking to be able to continue the design process by getting the release of the conditions for us to move forward with that project.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Harry?
Yeah, and are there any issues with any of the neighbors on, easements or whatever you're going to do for pieces that encroach?
We only believe we're going to need to get one easement, and we've already had initial conversations with them, and we feel that they're going to be accommodating to that easement.
Okay.
So, yes.
So we're not going to acquire any property, we're just going to get it?
We're not planning to acquire any property, we just need a little space on a corner. It's basically on a corner of an intersection that needed for the curb ramps and so forth to kind of avoid a utility pole that's in that corner too.
Right.
So,
Okay, great news.
yeah.
Any other questions? Leslie?
No, just generally, the
Water too, please.
comments and reactions at the public hearing, can you just generalize what they were?
Yeah, in general, the comments were very positive, and I've actually received a couple comments since then that people were very happy with the comments we've gotten back, so that they were very happy with the way the presentation was done and so forth. So we haven't heard any real negative feedback on it, other than, can we get it done any quicker? But
Actually, that raises a question. So what is the timing on the next steps? Oh, next steps. So what are the next steps and what's that time?
So the next steps are to finalize the design, and then we'll be looking to, we'll wait until mid-May when the RTM has taken action, because the construction funding made it through your guys' realm in the budgeting for capital. And so once hopefully it'll get through the RTM, and once the RTM's done that, then we'll start looking at, once we get this funding, we'll be able to finalize the design, potentially get the design done mid to late summer. We'll either be going out to bid or look at implementing it that way, either in the fall or probably next spring.
Thank you. David, do you have any questions? You okay? So, any more questions?
No, I just ready to make the motion. Make the motion to release conditions on 125,000 of the Sound Shore sidewalk project. Sorry, Shore Road sidewalk project.
I'll second that and suggest that we make it routine. Save you the evening.
So, yeah, let me go home on normal time, right? So.
So those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those
David?
against? Against? Are you abstaining?
No, I'm in favor.
Oh, you didn't raise your hand. There's not comment. Okay, 400.
I just would note what a disappointment about North Street Bridge.
Oh, yeah, we're continuing to work on it, and it just took a little bit longer time, and we want to do it the right way so that the public isn't as impacted, so that we can do it correctly and just be able to move it forward. So,
Yeah,
hopefully, yeah,
hopefully it stands up.
yeah. So,
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Well, no, I did check with Gabriella. She said she's fully confident that the bridge will remain in place for the next year, if that's what you mean by standing up. Pete?
You just made this routine. It's already posted as non-routine. But my question is,
You don't need Jim and Gabriella for
No.
tonight, right?
No.
No, and I assume from this that Harry will just make an announcement at the beginning of the meeting that it's a routine
Yeah,
item
that's
rather
what I
than
figured.
non-routine?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Pete. Actually, I do have one question on this. No, I think that's fine. I think we're in good shape. Okay, PD5, and we have Chief Hebe there with us today. And this is a release, thank you again, Jim. This is a release of conditions on $551,000, and it's for overtime, I believe, for the patrol division, correct, Jim?
Wrong, Leslie's.
Thank you.
So welcome, Chief Hebe.
Good afternoon. So, again, I just handed you some slides just to kind of go over, the things that we are doing to monitor our current size of the force. I think the biggest concern is always the assigned strength versus the available strength. And the slides demonstrate to you that, we have constant retirements. The average retirements are about 7 a year. We have 1 officer starting the police academy in Stamford, 3 that just finished, they're in the field training operation right now. And of course, dispatch is a concern of ours because there's several of those individuals who have left us. And of course, not that I'm one who loves statistics, but this morning I had another officer indicate that he's going to resign in June. Unfortunate because he has 11 years on the job and we've considerable amount of effort to train him. And this is something that's pretty rare when someone's in the department that long. So it is a concern. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him more about his reasons, but we do always have exit interviews. On the page that says eligible for retirement, you can see that, we have 19 officers who are have their full max 26 and 8 months years of service and can leave. And the number of those officers without a pension, 42 officers, they have a 401k, and that's about 28% of our workforce. And after 2 years, they can leave without any penalty. So a bit of a challenge, again, to continue to not only recruit, but to retain. So we look at that as well. We have a couple of factors also. Again, we just gave a test. We're waiting for the results. The academy takes quite a bit of time, over 6 months, and then 3 months of field training. So it's a good 10 months before we can put an officer on the road. If he or she gets sworn in today, it's going to take about 10 months before they're able to go out on the road and cover a shift. So again, that's one of the factors in that. And then the school security discussion is, again, as we discussed with our budget proposal for this year, one of our hopes is that if the upgrade of one of the police officer positions to sergeant happens, that we'll negotiate with the Silver Shield to change the work schedule to provide more coverage to the schools, and that sergeant, that will be one of their his or her jobs to do. Then we also, again, we're always redeploying the patrol and operations staff to fill holes to cover positions, but our Marine officers cover quite a bit of the school security during the school year when the boats are not in the water. We do have a Marine division year-round, but we reduce the manning in the Marine division to steady days and on call rather than on 2-shift during the summers. So that's one of the other things. And then 2 other things I just mentioned is, one is a lot of discussion about sick time. We're very on top of reviewing sick time and thinking about the officers work nights, weekends, holidays, and are exposed to all kinds of exposure to the public. They often can get sick, but we have an average of 4 sick days a year, which is a good number. We also recognize about 25 to 30 officers on each quarter who have perfect attendance that make all of their shifts. So we don't think that our sick time is a factor. Looking into anybody who was over that average, we can kind of explain it, whether it's the flu or childbirth or a family sick situation. And then lastly, before any of your questions, we run a report every 2 weeks to monitor our overtime. And as you'll recall, at this time last year, we actually came to you and thought that we were going to run short of monies for overtime to cover shifts. But I have to commend Deputy Chief Zuccarella and the captains who, in their various divisions, have monitored the situation and have been able to, be good stewards of the resources to minimize that impact. So looking at our overtime as of this morning, while we've spent about 95% of our overtime, our payroll has only been about 75%. So between those two, we believe we'll be able to cover all of the requirements without coming back to you for the dreaded interim appropriation, which, although we asked for one once, we never used that, those monies that were authorized for last year, because we were able to make some adjustments, so.
Harry, you have any questions?
Yes, so as I recall, last year, you were able to meet the extra overtime the same way, that it came out of lower payroll expense.
Correct, but it becomes harder now that we're closer to full strength. So, so when you have 10 officers down, you can do some adjustment. But when we're this close, because we're only down a few officers, you have to. It's tight, but we're still able to accommodate that.
Right. So the more at full strength you are, it's a double-edged sword.
Correct.
Well, but if you're at more full strength, you ought to have less overtime also.
Correct. The only thing that impacts that would be sick time or training. And again, that overlap between the officer is assigned to the department and is being paid, but they're at the academy. So that's the other challenge when we have 8 or 9 people in the academy. It's as if we have 10 short. We're short 9 or 10 positions. So they are at the lower end of this pay scale, which helps sometimes too.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Leslie?
So in looking at the financial charts that were sent, it looks like your budget's really tight this year in the sense that you have about 25% of the year to go, and you have about a 25% of your budget left to spend, there'll probably be very little money that's returned to the town. And if anything goes wrong, you could be over.
Sure.
Am I looking at this correctly?
No, that's fair. That's a fair statement. I think what we do is, because we constantly are looking at this, and for the first time, I've been chief for over 14 years now. The first time that I had to come back and say, I think we might not make it, and we had to ask for it. But we could be a couple of snowstorms or a major case away from having to come back for the dreaded interim appropriation. But we really have never had to do that for our operating costs. Right. Which again, you look at our payroll is about 94% of our payroll of our budget. So.
Yeah, I mean, even the 100s, I just compared the 101 and the overtime lines.
Sure.
And they're both, again, 26% of the budget's left, with about 25% of the year left.
Sure.
Because these are as of April.
One thing that we did do in the last 2 years is the officers are entitled to a personal day, and those were required to be used prior to July 1st. And we had there's a couple of names they had for it, but I always made me a little nervous. We had people who were taking their personal days, which are undeniable, in May and June. So what we did was we negotiated with the Silver Shield Association to have them take their personal days prior to their anniversary of their hiring, so that it's in their seniority date rather than the fiscal date, and that was able to spread those dates out over a 12-month period. And it took us a little while, and we still had a lot of June June hirings, but we were able to improve that vulnerability to our managing the overtime.
And given your experience, you understand the calendar in terms of if you did need more funding, you only have probably another month to identify that.
Sure. Yes, Deputy Chief Zuccarelli kind of really looked at this hard with the administrative staff, and we think we're in good shape.
Very good, thank you.
You have any questions, David?
No.
So this request is for overtime in the patrol division, but Roland has given us information on the other, divisions. So was the patrol division the right place to request this? Or it looks like other divisions may have more issues in overtime, or?
Well, the challenge is, sometimes because of our manning, we have detectives or operations, officers assigned to operations, working in patrol on overtime. So it does blend together like that. So sometimes you'll see the detectives' overtime is already cleaned out because a number of officers who are detectives are filling in on those open shifts in patrol, which is, it actually has a value added because they stay involved with suiting up in uniform, going out on the road. So I think it's a positive thing for occasionally a detective to work patrol, so they kind of reminds them about how they started. So
Okay, no, I didn't know. So I don't think, and do you have any more questions or anyone just to?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve PD5 and suggest routine.
I'll second.
Moved by Harry Fisher, seconded by Leslie Moriarty, as a release of conditions as a routine item. Those in favor? That motion is passed.
Great.
4-0-0.
thank
So
you
you're
for the
off the
night
hook
off.
tonight.
Yeah, I don't get overtime, so it's not going to hurt the budget.
Neither do we.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Can we just ask one question? I read in the newspaper about these new lights that you plan to put in at the schools. Can you just give us like 60 seconds on what that's going to be, or where?
Sure.
it's
So
going to-
what they are, they're automated light. It'll use a license plate reader and a camera to take pictures, and a radar device to determine people's speed. If they are in excess of the speed posted at the schools, we'll get a picture of them and their violation date and time. And then an officer will review that and determine that if it's in fact a violation, they'll get sent, for the first 30 days, they'll get a warning. After that, they'll get a town ordinance violation. It's an administrative fee. The first one is $50. I believe the second one is going to be $75 or $100. The areas that we are seeking approval is near all the schools, public and private. We have 16 locations that we've identified. I think we're going to initially do cameras in 10 of the locations. And they'll all be posted before and after the camera, so they'll have adequate warning that they're entering a school zone and they need to slow down. After the 30-day warnings, they'll be getting summonses, but we also, looking at all the statistics, it's like 60 to 70% reduction in speeders at or near schools once these cameras are activated. So we also recognize that it's not a financial gain. It's for to change people's behavior and make it safer near the schools, and that the money that the town will receive will go into a line, a fund for traffic safety, whether it's engineering or enforcement, and or to finance the coverage of having that officer review all the tickets and things like that. So we think it's a pretty good plan. There's only one town, I guess, that's been approved, and they have a very small footprint. Ours is rather large. Our application is before the state. Last Thursday, I asked the local traffic authority, which is the Board of Selectmen, for approval of our plan, and they voted unanimously for that. So that information was forwarded to the state on Friday, and we should know within 60 days, which our vendor believes that we'll be able to install the cameras by Labor Day. So before school starts, we'd have them in place. And the other thing, we would make sure that the town gets lots of information about the program, so they get a heads up and warning that this is, there's a new enforcement activity going on. And then lastly, I just mentioned, besides those cameras, we've done a couple of grants that you've approved recently, but we've had a 104% increase in traffic enforcement and like a 38% reduction in motor vehicle accidents. So we kind of remind the officers and the community that if we don't give tickets to make a financial burden on them, that we do enforcement so that we can make things safer. And it just shows that if you are out there doing more traffic enforcement, that the number of motor vehicle accidents is reduced, and it's a much better, like I said, much safer out there on the roads.
So I have a couple questions, follow-on questions. Is that money, all of the money come to the town, or is it split with the state? I know sometimes moving vehicle violations are split with the state or something like that.
Well, all of you BET members know, nothing is free, and half of the fees go to the vendor who has done all the studies for us and is going to install the equipment, and then the other half will come to the town.
And is it like exact? If the thing says 20 miles an hour, if you go 21, does it catch you? No, I mean, because I see some of these are in hills, and they're like, all of a sudden, you're on top of it.
I won't tell you the exact number, but there's a little bit of leeway. So you know,
Okay.
if you're doing 12 miles over the limit, you probably are going to get a ticket. But
And if you're in the budget committee, especially the chair.
if you're driving I won't identify the vehicles that I know that all of you drive. So I won't.
Okay, no, but thank you for
Yeah.
it's a current topic, and people are talking about it, so, it's good to have that additional
Sure.
information.
The other state program that did come up at the RTM, the Board of Selectmen meeting was the traffic light cameras. And that has a stricter criteria that you have to identify that there's a significant number of accidents at intersections. We only have 2 intersections, which is a good thing that we don't have a lot of accidents at intersections that warranted a camera installed to eliminate people going through red lights. However, the criteria for that's much different than these speed cameras, and at this point, we're not really going to investigate that. At this point, we'll see what that happens. But they're at exit 3 and exit 5. So there would be a combination of a state and local intersection there that we do identify that at exit 3 getting off at exit 3 southbound and then getting off at exit 5 are the 2 intersections that have almost enough accidents to warrant that we put these cameras in. But I in particular have some reservations about putting those cameras in at this point.
Thank you.
Jim, at the schools, is it going to be 1 camera per school, or, like Central Middle School has 3 roads around it?
Right, well, they'll have a camera in at least each designated area will have a camera in 2 directions. And what we've
Right, but
done is you look at some of the footprint, we'll be able to get a value added because some of the schools are so close together, like Greenwich High School, Central, and, there's a couple places where the closeness of the schools will be able to activate them. And we can also move them. We looked at, I've been involved in a lot of the Central Middle School building, and we recognize that we may need to move the cameras as we change the traffic pattern as once the new building is built, we'll be moving the camera to another location because of the likely avenues of approach will change. So
Right.
move it over to Stanwich versus onto Orchard, so.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So thank you for I'm sorry, Leslie.
No, just one last comment really for the BET is once this comes into play, the BET, you'll have to approve the appropriation, the use of the funds.
Absolutely. Well, I think, like I said, they'll be valuable to use them for, whether it's engineering or for additional technology or for the use of enforcement. And like I said, some of the grants that you guys have approved have really already made a big difference just in the last 90 days. So,
Thank you.
Great, so
Thanks.
thank you for the additional information.
no problem.
Our next item is new business, and we have economic conditions, so I'm going to move further back in my package. So Roland, you're up.
So in the case of the revenues, we're pretty much where we've been in the last few months. Everything, for the most part, is negative except for the higher taxes. And, we're almost $14 million ahead of last year in the taxes. Of course, the budget was $15 million more year over year, so that certainly makes sense that way. On the expenses, we have a lot of negatives here. We finally got caught up in terms of the same amount of pay periods this year versus last year. so we're a little bit easier to compare things. Some of the bigger items were timing differences, like Witherall, we gave them their contribution earlier than last year. Transfers to other funds, that's again, a timing difference. We made the transfer to the sewer improvement fund earlier. But some of the other ones are, like Board of Ed salaries are up. That's a combination of, obviously, the salary increases. And we also we found out during the budget process that of the additional people next year's budget, about 8 or 9 of them were already in place this year.
I thought it was 13.2, 5 plus 8.2.
That's next year.
Oh, that's next year. I thought those were the ones this year, and then another 8.8 goes in next year.
10 point.
Well, everyone has different numbers. That's interesting.
I think you're also adding the 3 that were split
Yeah.
between the town and the Board of Ed. The money was actually moved as of
But
January,
anyway, that's,
which are handled.
those additional
Oh, those are
people,
different.
those additional people are also part of the reason that the Board of Ed salaries are up, in addition to the higher contract increases.
Can I make a request? This chart, I think, would be helpful to show as a percentage of the total budget, these amounts, because percentage-wise, like healthcare, it's a big number in the budget. And what
Okay.
percentage that shows the Board of Ed, it would be a lower percentage, et cetera.
Okay.
So I was also going to say that, healthcare is not only the increase in healthcare, but it's also the additional staff that's been added as interims, correct? Both in the BOE and the town.
To some degree, sure. The more people, the higher the healthcare.
But on the healthcare, did we not budget properly on this? I mean, 5 million just seems like a big number.
Well, I mean, every year we do 3-4% off of $65 million.
Right. If that's what it is, it's huge.
So that, like in next year's budget,
Oh, this is the difference from the previous year?
yes, yeah.
Right, it's not difference from the budget. Never
No.
mind, thank you.
Okay.
So, Leslie, do you have any questions?
No?
Okay, so I wanted to just comment, because look, while you have conveyance, building permits, et cetera, over here as negatives, when we look at the actual budgets for them and what we're getting as actuals versus the budget for the year, based on very simple calculations, we should more than achieve our budget for conveyance, taxes, and building permits, and we have already exceeded our budget for interest for fiscal year '25. Is that correct?
I guess that's true. We're going to meet budget on all of these, but what we're not going to do, to the extent that we did last year, was these surpluses here increasing fund balance.
Right,
We're not going to get those increases to the fund balance, for example, for interest or any of them.
right, and I agree, and the same thing with adding employees, no matter where, town or BOE during the year, is also impacts it, and it impacts not only salaries, but healthcare. So I think we have to be more diligent across the board and whatever. Do we have, I also, does anyone else have any questions on this? I had a comment.
I just want to, you're right in the sense that as we add employees, it adds to the fixed costs. But we do know that some of those employees were because the Title I changed.
5
Right?
of them.
So it's not like it's just management action to add employees. And the BET approves the town-related, the non-educational related ones. So we are aware of these. We should be aware of them.
We approve the what?
When something goes from part-time to full-time, we typically approve them. I believe that 2 of them happened without our approval this year. But the BET has some awareness of the changes from year to year. as we
And
go.
that's the importance of the HR committee. Witherall, can I just make a comment on Witherall? Because what I did was, from your various charts, Roland, I took revenues and and expenses, and while expenses are up by $475,000, it's still a good improvement over last year because of the increase in revenues. Is that true? Maybe I should be looking at Joe. That's true. That's a good statement. There's good news in Witherell, huh?
You do want to be careful here because not, on the expense side, there's some significant expenses that are not in here because they wouldn't have been paid yet.
Okay, thank you, Joan. Well, that's good to know, too.
But also, March revenues are not included in here, too, so they're a month behind on revenues. So it's on both sides.
That's correct. And March actually was a pretty good month. Census is back down again for April, but March was good.
I was being positive. You did notice that.
You were? But once you mentioned something negative, I had to make sure the counter was.
Thank you. Okay, so we have no old business. So now we have approval of BET Budget Committee meeting minutes. Shall we do them one by one, or should we at least combine Decision Day 1 and Decision Day 2? Why don't we say March, are there any motions to approve March 4th, Decision Day 1?
I'll move approval.
Moved by Harry Fisher,
Second.
second by Leslie Moriarty. Those in favor? That's 400. March 5th, budget fiscal year 26 budget Decision Day 2.
I'll move approval.
Harry Fisher moving it,
I'll second.
seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Those in favor? Okay, 400. The minutes of the regular March Budget Committee meeting of March 11th. Motion to
I'll move
approve.
approval.
Moved by Harry Fisher.
I'll second. I'm just making sure my name was spelt right because.
Oh, I'm sorry about that
They
mistake.
were all
in
wrong in the
the
other
other
ones.
ones.
But,
Yeah, I need to talk to
so
I
Samantha.
thought it.
I think these are fine. So I'll second.
Oh, okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
400. That motion passed. And finally, we have the March 24th, 2025, special meeting of the Budget Committee.
I'll move approval.
Harry Fisher moved,
I'll second.
seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Those in favor? 400. That motion passed. Okay, the chair report, I think the only thing I actually was going to say, which Harry has beat me to it, was that many people are interested in the North Street Bridge, and that's been delayed by approximately 1 year, although it's my understanding they're going to get to work at some point in time, moving utilities and so forth in advance of the project. So that project and its impact on school busing and many, many other things is now delayed, and I think they sent out a notice basically after hours last Friday. So the next thing.
I have a question for planning for future meetings. We had discussed, it was in the last day of the discussions at the budget meetings in February, we talked about the need to get a basis for the capital plan so that we all understand the assumptions within it and that we all understand the numbers in it. And I think I'd like to put that on the agenda for the May meeting to talk about the scope of work and what's expected so that we can get started with that
Well,
project.
I think, if possible, Leslie, maybe we could do that in June, just because we have a lot to get accomplished in terms of the budget and also in terms of the other time that we'll be spending, because we're doing a recruitment process, particularly the four of us. I'd rather certainly support it, but if we could do that in, a month later, I think that would be much easier. So, got it on the, we'll work that out. We'll work that out,
Maybe
okay?
we-
We'll work that out, David.
Can
And
I-
so,
Can I speak? I mean, really?
you weren't asked, you didn't ask if you could speak.
I just
just
said,
started
can I
talking."
speak? The words were, can I speak? 3 words, can I speak?
Yes, you may speak.
So maybe, given the complexities of the capital issue that Ms. Moriarty is mentioning, maybe we can introduce it and, because it's not going to all get done in one meeting. And then I hear what you're saying about May being, we're not going to conclude it, but maybe just to put it on the agenda for May and then see how much we can do, and then carry it over to June. Might be just.
So,
because-
I don't have a problem with carrying it over 2 months, but I'd rather, I'll be thinking about that, David and Leslie, but I think it probably would be easier on all of us if we did it like, we use your scenario, June and July. So, anyway, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second to that motion? Moved by Harry Fisher, seconded by Leslie Moriarty. Motion to adjourn at 1:34. Those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passed 400. And Don Conway gets to, our wonderful television producer and cameraman, et cetera, gets to do his special song celebration at Nathaniel Weatherall on time.